Good evening. Oh, I'll put my teeth in. What a great start that is. Good evening, everyone, to the activity Hub Bali presents the ANZCAR Truck Series on FGM eCast for your Monday night. It is a very happy Monday night here in Victoria as we got news today that we're finally coming out of this lockdown that has been inflicted on the state, I should say, for the last 111 days. What a whopper it's been, only a couple to go. And excited tonight as well. We've got a full combox here. We've had to make a little bit of room. We're all 1.5 metres apart, so it's all good. We've got Scotty Rankin on board tonight for a Monday night, a addition to this truck series. Very keen to get involved. Good evening to you, Scotty.
Thanks, Stuart. And something a little bit different. I don't do a whole lot of oval commentary. It's normally a little bit of fun for me, where I try and get my kicks out on Route 66. It's normally in an oval fashion, but tonight, look, mate, it's not GT cars. They're does this say trucks?
Absolutely.
Are these trucks?
Absolutely.
These are utilities.
No. Everything's a truck now. There's no utilities anymore. They're all trucks.
Out of my depth, and I guess that's probably the most appropriate time to throw to our third member of the Combox tonight. It's Carl.
Yeah,
Carl
absolutely.
Whitey, how are you doing?
Good
You're
evening,
the one that knows the
everybody.
most about these things.
Yeah, absolutely. The trucks, yes, we do race trucks on ovals. It's a very different thing that we do here. We generally just turn left. There is the odd right turn as you come out of the pit lane, but it is a very different series from people that are used to GT racing. A very different sort of skill set that's required as well, obviously, because it's such close racing at such high speeds as well.
Yeah, and you were telling us last week about the lack of grip that they suffer. If you want to give us just a quick rundown as well on probably the difference here. We're still on, what is this one? This one's a mile truck. Just on what we're looking out for tonight in terms of tyre wear and the like when we get into it.
Yeah, so this track's just slightly under a mile. It's just on that sort of cusp. This one, it's a very flat track as well. There is a little bit of banking in the turn, but not as much as you're used to on these very short tracks. One of the big things about these trucks as well is obviously there's not much weight over the rear axle, so all your power goes through that rear axle, and there's nothing sitting on top of it other than a little bit of downforce you get from that rear spoiler. So that makes a big difference. These things are very squirrely, and you're going to see a lot of drivers struggling as they come out of turns 2 and turn 4 tonight, as there's a bit of a bump on the exit, and that's just causing the rear tyres just to light up a little bit. Everybody's losing a little bit of that rear grip. The back goes light, and then all of a sudden goes spinning into the infield.
That would explain all the cars that I've been watching going down on the infield. Now, Iowa is an interesting track. Personally, I don't mind it because it's one of the more difficult oval tracks. Reminds me a lot of, I believe it's Michigan is the other similar track towards Iowa, or have I got that wrong?
I'm having to think now as well. I'm terrible at track names and remembering tracks like that. No, but there are a few in this genre. Iowa was one of the newest speedways made. It's one of the newest tracks on the NASCAR circuit as well, and it's sort of made to that slightly smaller than the 1.5 mile ovals, the cookie cutters as you call them. It seems to be the way NASCAR's going back to things as well. They seem to be going more towards those slightly smaller circuits, these slightly flatter banks as well, because you get a lot more racing on here. It's not the sort of drift racing you're used to seeing at places like Talladega and Daytona. This is more about getting the car on the right line, getting that grip working, and getting a good drive off the corner, and that's sort of where you're going to want to make the overtakes. You might see a few people darting down the inside trying for a late braking here as well. Obviously, braking is important on these tracks. You do quite a lot of braking as you go into the first corner and the third corner, and that's where sometimes you'll see some people making the initial start of the overtake, but the big thing is drive off the corners.
So it's all about getting that power down nice and cleanly and then get back in the draft. I mean, these things, from what I've experienced with them, is, again, not much at all. It's all about drafting, but that's more on the engines are much more similar and the cars are much more similar. So it's more of a stock style kind of chassis, whereby the manufacturer is more just a badge that's on the front of it than say the NASCARs, whereby there are a few more tweaks in the way that they look.
Yeah, it's pretty much just a badge. There is a slight difference to the looks between the Chevy, the Ford, and the Toyota as well. Just mild little differences on the outer bodywork, but generally they're all pretty much the same. The Chevrolet's a little bit more boxy at the front. The Toyota's got a little bit more of a sleeker nose, and the Ford is just super aggressive looking. Looks like a big mean monster, which it kind of is. But you sort of will notice on the cars they're quite similar in their layout. Power-wise, different engines obviously, but all pretty much the same power range. You know, there's not much difference between these cars. It all comes down to the driver at the end of the day.
Yeah, well,
yeah, go ahead, Stuart.
Sorry, mate. No, it's all right. We've got to get used to this. I need to get the light or put your hand up or something like that to to get involved. I was just going to say we've got now only 10 seconds to go to conclude the practice session here. Before we do jump into qualifying, it is a 2-lap solo qualifying effort here. It's just a car spin-off in the background there. And I just wanted to quickly touch on, if we can, the points at this point in time before we get involved. So we'll just quickly have a look at it here. I'll bring it up on screen. It is Josh Micklemore who, at this stage, basically just needs to complete tonight to take this one out. Stephen Williams and then Brandon Bartlett in behind him, Aidan Schultz and Dwayne Priest, who we saw last night running in the Activity Hub Bali V8 Supercar Oval Series in this series as well. So they're the top 5 drivers for the race tonight, as we do get into our qualifying session here now. And get that off the screen, and we're looking for purple. Purple is what we want down the bottom of the screen there. If you are looking at qualifying times, we'll try and keep it across everyone. Of course, a lot of the drivers go out at the same time, so we'll try and do our best to update you over the next 5 minutes.
And I will be looking at a timing screen on my own without being able to watch the cars, unfortunately, but I will do my best to help in any way I can.
Well, obviously, if there's anyone that you are interested in, then let us know, and we will jump on board with them so that we can give some context to what you're talking about.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and jump out on a limb and say here's a driver that would be a lot more familiar to some of you that do follow the AEE broadcasts, and it's Luke Traher. Now, apparently, according to you, Stuart, this is where he really shows his colours and his pure skill. Currently, he's out on the first of his flying laps. He was about halfway around when I last looked. So he'll be coming through the back couple sectors. I believe this is off 3 and 4. No? My mistake, that was off 1 and 2. So now down into 3 and 4. Gets the car turned in. Looking for a mid to high line, getting right down the bottom of the oval, and it just doesn't look like it's the most appropriate way to carry speed through these corners. And like you said, Carl, it's all about getting that drive off the corner, but I think maintaining speed in these things when they are such an even car is a large part of the bargain as well.
It is. Sometimes you'll see drivers sort of sacrificing their first lap run as well, just to try and get a better second lap. Usually your tyres are a little bit warmer, so you get a slightly better second run usually. So that's usually the case for those guys. So you might see Luke just popping in a better time this time round. Obviously, keeping mid-track, it's a little bit easier for the car to stay steady. When you go too low, you do find the tail just starts to reach out a little bit, and that's where you start to have problems.
Alright, so most of the laps now starting to come in. It's Micklemore is topping the timing charts by just under a tenth of a second with a 23.65. Mark Smith is 23.73, is locked up second place by the look of things. Stephen Clark, 23.87. I tell you what, it's really, really close from here as we start to get through the tight bunch of the field. So 23.87 for P3, Stephen Clark. Kate Donnelly, 2, 23.88. Aaron Dillon, 2, 23.89. And the timing start to take a little bit of a shuffle again. Not sure if that's just a little bit of server lag, but anyway. On with the business, but it's real tight. Micklemore 23.65 and Stephen Williams right at the back end of that session 23.68 slots into the last spot on the front row of the grid.
So we do still have a couple of minutes to go in the session, and we have seen a couple of drivers jump out late, as is normally the case with this series, from what I understand, having watched back through some of the old races and certainly last week. So Michael Skurlock's just popped out on the track. He will be quick around here. He was certainly quick last week. So we'll jump on board with him as he goes to complete his 2 laps. Jason Martin also just jumped out on track as well.
Yeah, Skurlock and Martin are 2 you really want to keep an eye on. Skurlock set some very good practice times beforehand. He was shuffling the top end of the practice time, and Jason Martin usually has incredibly good 1-lap pace, so definitely worth watching those 2 as they go around.
psychological aspect of going out late in the session. You just sort of don't want to throw and roll all your dice nice and early. You want to take a read of things. As you actually said it, Martin does jump up to the top of the session with a 23.63. So there's nothing in it right at the top of things. And just looking for Skurlock. Got his first lap in, was only a 23.78. He's coming around. That is off 3 and 4, so he'll come to the line. Is he going to be able to knock it off once again? Doesn't look good. 23.62, I believe I saw there. 23.74 was his best lap.
Yeah, so that jumps him up into 5th position. Not a bad starting position for him, but Jason Martin's selling an absolute blinder there. Jason sort of just comes in sort of later in the day sometimes and then pulls out these incredible laps that you just left there. It's going, how did you manage that? He is a quick boy, Jason Martin. But yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you're waiting with the cloud cover, obviously. Sometimes you get a qualifying cloud, as you used to call it, where the cloud comes over the track, just reduces some of the heat on the tarmac and can help gain a couple of tenths here and there. You know, it's tiny amounts of time that you're looking at, though.
And when timing charts themselves are that close, I mean, you know, half a degree might not seem like much, but when you're in identical machinery, when you're in an oval that is identical and the conditions are near identical, half a degree, 1 degree, it does make a lot of difference. It's not a huge sort of difference. It's temperatures and things have a lot translate to sort of how the tires will warm themselves up. So generally with a colder track, you're going to struggle to get that tire temperature in. It's actually a hot evening out here in the Iowa Speedway. It's 37 degrees Celsius right now is the track temperature. I actually don't have the ambient temperature up on the screen for you, but I'm sure Stuart's all over that one in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just bring that up on the side of the screen there. We'll just jump back into that as we get through our grid here with the trucks just jumping out into pit lane behind our pace truck. Off the front row, it is Jason Martin, followed by Josh Mickelmore, looking to tie things up here tonight with 1 round to go in the truck series. We've got Stephen Williams and Mark Smith off row 2, Michael Skurlock off row 3 alongside Stephen Clark. We've got Cade Donnelly and Aaron Dillon off row 4, followed by Brandon Bartlett and Luke Trahere off row 5. Back to Gary Wellman and Aidan Schultz off row 6. And then as we flick back through into the next section of the grid, Michael Schroeder, followed by Brody Masters. We've got Troy Davidson and Christopher Finlay off the next row, followed by Dwayne Priest and Tristan Koch. Tony Gagliardi, followed by Igor Burkic. And then we've got Jake Maloney and Jason Williams, followed by Jake Manhire and Matthew Raymond off position 24. Then we get to last at this stage is Riley Curtis off the back of the grid. Of course, with Carl Withy on the screen there, but joining us in the combox tonight after having a run during the practice session.
Yes, of course.
You have more information about the track and the conditions out there, and you said it was actually quite slippery.
Yeah, well, absolutely. The track was starting to come to us as that practice session was starting to close up. The track does evolve quite a lot here, obviously, as the rubber goes down. It does make a huge difference, especially with the grip off of turns 3 and 4. It just helps the car stick a little bit more. But you will see some people struggling through those corners early on, especially on cold tyres. When the tyres are pretty cold, it's not fun going around this track. Those first couple of laps are pretty treacherous, and it's quite easy to lose the rear.
Very humid here as well. 55% humidity will have an effect on the tyres too. So interesting set of Jane Bunn numbers, shall we say, on the track here tonight.
Yeah, it will make a bit of difference out there tonight. Tyre life doesn't go down too quickly, but it's sort of, you do start losing time pretty quickly as you go around. You start losing about half a second after about 5 or 6 laps on those tyres, but you can keep them going for a relatively long time. So I expect to see people trying to go for a long stint, probably a one-stop strategy if they can, just because you get to a point where the tyre wear plateaus and you don't really lose or gain too much time on them. Fuel-wise, they'll be able to make it with just the one stop tonight. So we should probably be looking for a one stop if it goes green, but I imagine if there's a caution come out and the pace car comes out to the track, then we will see people pitting for some brand new fresh tyres.
Is there any case to not pitting during the safety car? I mean, tonight with only 23 sort of second laps. It is quite short. The ability to potentially, take yourself in the rear end of the queue and insert yourself right up the front end, is that something that's potentially an option for the drivers, or are we not expecting that whatsoever?
I wouldn't expect to see that as the pace car goes into pit lane, and we'll be going green for here at Iowa.
That's it. Jason Martin leads us away for lap number 1. Micklemore's on his outside, looking to tie up the championship. They're all going to dive in, get themselves settled in. So it's Martin, Micklemore, Williams, Smith and Clark to lead us off for the first time. The 07 machine on the high line, losing a little bit of momentum, coming through 1 and 2, 96. That's going to be Stephen Clark, looks to grab himself an early position. And 07 still trapped on the high side. Skurlock is going to be looking for blood in the water nice and early and drive that truck up a few spots further forward.
Yeah, he's going to try and get up there. Mark Smith up there in the 07 did catch the wall, as out the front Josh Micklemore makes a move on his teammate, going down on Jason Martin and making the move stick there. Really nice job from Micklemore to get ahead of Martin there, and he's going to be happy about that. Mitch Motorsport, they do like to race each other. They race hard, but they do work well as a team too, so they won't be sort of easing off around each other. They do tend to race each other quite hard out there.
Yep, so things seem to settle in nice and early on. 130 laps this evening, keep that in the back of your mind. So the magic number is going to be about the 65 lap mark. You might see drivers go a little bit longer, look to grab that extra 0.2, 0.3 of a second for the majority of the stint at the back end of the race if they're feeling racy. Caution percentage here tonight, Carl?
I would say high. Yeah, you're probably looking at a caution at some stage in this race. We're probably going to be looking at probably about 1 to 3 cautions, I would say, just because of the nature of the track and just because of those grip areas on the exits of the corners. You might just see somebody losing it, especially probably the most dangerous times are early on in a stint, like now. Also, as you get towards the end of the stint, obviously when the tyres are worn down. But coming off pit lane, if you get some green stoppers, some people stopping in the green flag period, they're going to come out and those tyres are going to be very cold. It's very easy to loop the back with those fresh tyres.
The inside, I believe that's Skurlock actually looking to go down the inside of Clark. So early on, it's Smith and Clark looking to run the high line. Skurlock really trying to make the bottom of the track work nice and early on. Looks like that's where all the rubber's been laid down. He will cut down. Going to put a little bit extra work on those tyres to try and get past the 96 machine of Stephen Clark. Still hasn't gotten it done. These guys have been running side by side now for just about the majority of the race. It looks like Skurlock is a little bit weak coming off 3 and 4. Very strong onto 1 and 2. Gets a reasonable run down the back stretch. No drafting assistance available to him on the low side. I tell you what, the 07 of Mark Smith looks to be preferring that high line, whereas leaders of Micklemore and Martin, they looked a lot more comfortable on the low side nice and early on. So we might see a little bit of Mark Smith, Stephen Clark working together, Carl.
Yeah, they're trying to get that high line working for them, and that tends to work really well on the corner exit. So you'll get a good run off the exit. You'll lose time through the actual apex of the corner because the guys on the low line are taking the shorter radius, obviously, as Michael Skurlock, he's still side by side with Stephen Clark there. So they are really going hard for it at the moment. But Skurlock's sticking to that inside at the moment. He seems pretty happy down there. Skurlock's one of those drivers that can keep his tyres working and keep them switched on those strange lines, sometimes able to make those low lines work. At the moment up the front, you can see Josh Micklemore, Jason Martin as well, tending to prefer the low line along with Stephen Williams. Mark Smith and Stephen Clark are the sort of the two front runners for that high line. Looks like Skurlock's just going to slot in a little bit. He's just trying to get some cars behind him to almost start following him, just to not get just to try and not lose places.
Just actually listening into the drivers' comms at that point in time, and Skurlock and Clark are both showing a little bit of respect for each other. They said it's awesome that we can race side by side like that, and it's good to see it as well. Like in terms of things, when you come from a GT-minded aspect, more sports car circuits, the racing sometimes you don't see a lot of overtaking, you don't see it as much. But to see cars side by side, that is the real thrill of oval racing. It looks simple, it looks easy, it's anything but, Carl. It is not easy in these things.
No, when you're going for a race like this early on, when you're racing side by side for somebody for 20, 30, 40, 50 laps sometimes, it takes it out of you because you're having to keep an eye on them. You're having to change your line with the way their car moves as well. You might see them get a little bit loose into the corner. You know, you have to go a little bit lower to allow them to sort of be able to get back online and not crash into you sort of thing. So you're having to think for cars around you. You've also got to think about the cars behind you as well. You can see with Skurlock back there, he's got a train of cars at the moment, starting with Aaron Dillon in the 013 at the moment. And they are really biting at the heels of Skurlock, who was taking that really tight line earlier on. And that might have just caused a little bit of damage to his tyres. He might have just overheated the tyres a little bit going down that road, just scrubbing them a little bit. You tend to get a little bit hotter tyres. So he might just be running that slightly higher line for a couple of laps, and he makes an attack again on Stephen Clark, just to let the tyres cool down, and then he's going to make his attack, which it looks like he's doing right now.
Yep, looking to get down there nice and low, put some pressure on nice and early, and I tell you what, he hasn't got it quite done yet. Clark really making him work for the position. He says if you want it, you're going to have to sacrifice something, and that something is going to be tyre temperature, tyre deg, middle to late race pace, because those tyres are going to burn up early, may cause him to come down pit train a little bit earlier on. Early caution comes down. Just taking a quick look through the field, it looks like Igor Burkic is the one that has caused it. We'll grab a replay of that one here in a few moments.
Yeah, he's had a big moment going into turn number 1, Igor, and he's ended up rolling it onto his roof. So a big accident for him, and he's just lost grip going into that corner, ran up high, and he's come across the leaders on the top of his roof, and they've all done a great job avoiding him. So very, very nearly a big accident there for the lead group. And that's another thing about this style of racing, about racing on these oval tracks, is you're going around about 180, 190 kilometers per hour on this track. And when you come up to a car on its roof, you don't have much time to think. So you have to think, is it going to go down? Is it going to stay where it is? Do I put on the brakes? If you slam on the brakes, chances are somebody's going to come in from behind you. If you try and go low, chances are that car's going to slide into you. So you try and keep a high line and just hope it slides down. And that's what all the drivers did there.
We can see here huge train of drivers coming into pit lane to take advantage of this caution. I was going to ask you before as well whether or not there is a limitation on the number of tyre sets that the drivers have access to tonight.
No, not on the Truck Series. Truck Series is unlimited sets of tyres. It's the Cup Series, so the sort of elder series of the trucks, the slightly faster, sort of more the proper NASCARs that you're used to. They have a 4-set tyre limit to them, but Trucks is our sort of developmental series for ANZCAR, so a little bit more lenient, and there's unlimited tyres for everybody. But you might see a few people trying to just take 2 tyres. I think we saw Stephen Clark there doing that. So he's just taken 2 of the right side tyres. So he's just taken outside tyres, and that's jumped him ahead of the queue, giving him a chance to get ahead of everybody. And this is part of the strategy in oval racing as well, is because the right-hand tyres are going to be the ones that are going to go degrade quickest on a track like this, on an oval, with this style of oval where you are pushing a lot on those right-hand tyres. Your inside tyres, your left-hand tyres might be okay. So he's banking on those inside tyres working for him. But we will see at the restart, he'll have a little bit of a trickier restart, but he is leading. So he's got track position.
And does that play a lot with the balance of these cars, particularly obviously with the, I should say, trucks, with the low aero in the rear of them, just taking those 2 tyres, obviously on a circuit car, particularly if you take them on one side, it can play havoc with handling. But on the working side on these cars, is it just about a lap that takes them to get up to pressure and then it's back to normal? Or
it can depend a little bit on circuits, of course, and certain tracks with the trucks as well. The trucks tend to be a bit loose for probably about 2 laps, I'd say, when you do take just the single side. On a track like here at Iowa, you might suffer a little bit more just taking 2 tyres because it is quite hot out there tonight. Those inside tyres were getting quite a bit beaten up as well. But we did see Stephen Clark using that high line quite a lot. So he wasn't running the tyres nearly as hard as people like Mickelmore, Martin, Skurlock, and Stephen Williams as well. You know, he wasn't running those inside tyres quite as hard. So they may be in good condition still. But the big thing for him now is on the restart, because when you put your foot down, when you've got 2 unbalanced tyres, one of them's going to be very grippy and one of them's not going to be very grippy. As you do tend to have a little bit of a movement for the car, and you've got to be a bit careful for that when you do put your foot down for the restart.
Absolutely, and we just jumped on board there as well with a video for just a short ad in the corner there for Activity Hub Bali, who of course are the main sponsor for the truck series, and jumped on board last week. We thank you them very much for supporting the series and getting involved here, and yeah, looking forward to having them join the series for the entirety of 2021, as do we for commentating this one every Monday night on FGM eCast. So welcome aboard Activity Hub Bali.
Yeah, it's very nice to have somebody back on board with the trucks as well, and to be getting it broadcast again. We usually have 3 seasons with the trucks, so we sort of start early in the year in sort of February with all the truck racing, and then we have a sort of little mid-season break, and then we get back to racing again in sort of the May, sort of round about May for the second season. So it's quite useful because they are very short seasons. You can sort of work out, you can usually get some good finishes, and it really helps people learn to be a bit more consistent, learns them to race a little bit smarter as well. It just gives a good idea of what's going to go on for oval style racing as the pace car lights have gone out.
So that means...
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
I thought I was trying to give you a break. It just means that what we've got here as the pace truck lights are out, that we've got a rundown of the order. Clark Micklemore as an adjustment as a consequence of those pit stop strategies, followed by Martin Williams. Skurlock still in 5th. Dylan Trahair, followed by Donnelly, Schultz and Maloney as your top 10 as we get ready to get back underway here, which will be on lap 21 of 130.
Field compresses, and Clark is going to lead us away. Jumps on the gas nice and early, which offsets that margin that any differential and tyre pressures will have had. So leading us back to green once more, it's going to be Clark, Micklemore, Martin Williams, Skurlock, Dylan and Trahair is your top 7. Schultz, Donnelly and Bartlett rounds us out to your top 10 as the 31 machine of Micklemore wants to get things moving nice and early, sends it down onto the low line. A lot of trust in those tyres as they're still coming back up to pressure, but he's made it work halfway alongside right now Stephen Clark. And Clark is really going to have to get some pace going off this high side, or else Micklemore might get clear of him on corner exit. Not quite. And that's where Clark seems to be strongest, is off 1 and 2.
Yeah, Riley Curtis having a big moment. You might have just seen it in the background there, but he had a big moment coming off of turn 4 on that restart, and he's going to be caught up by the leaders relatively quickly here as he's trying to get the car back settled on the track. But yeah, really good job from Stephen Clark. Being the leader means you can have that jump, but he is going to struggle now because Micklemore's going to take that low line, and he's got a bit more grip on those inside tyres, so he can make this work now. So this is where Clark's got to really try and race for those positions. You can see Micklemore's tail just starting to wiggle a little bit on the exit of the corner. He's going to hold that quite well, but it does get to you as a driver. You do get slightly annoyed about losing the rear end sometimes, but you do learn to live with it. And you can see now Micklemore's got a nose ahead on the back straight. That's really important because that means he's going to have a little bit further ahead on the front straight now.
It looks like he's just about clear, sort of even 3/4 in front at this stage. Then Clark sort of gets a little bit better at the drive. 1 and 2 is going to be Clark's corner on the high side. Really, like I said before, that's where he's strongest. If Micklemore can get clear, get that truck up onto the top side, then it'll be over and done for Clark. And I think he's clear, but I think he still wants to keep working with the teammate here with Jason Martin. They've been working this low side all night long, and finally Micklemore gets it done, coming off 3 and 4. Clark gets a huge run and doesn't find any space to sort of transition the car into. This is where he's strongest once again, back into 1 and 2. Martin really trying to get the car settled on the low line, gets a little bit of power on, got a little bit of an advantage, and Clark starts to drift back into the field. And I tell you what, all of a sudden it's Skurlock that looks to be trying to run the high line with Clark there in the 350 machine.
Yeah, Skurlock's one of those drivers to look out for because he will be almost nowhere. You'll forget he exists, and then all of a sudden he'll be at the lead of the race.
I tell you what, he isn't taking any time in trying to get onto the rear end of Clark and get his move done. He's sizing up Martin. Martin's still not quite done with his move, and Skurlock's there and wants a part of it. He was, I'd say, conserving the tyres a little bit, running that high line for a couple of laps in behind Clark, waiting for his opportunity to have a go at him. But now it's starting to present itself, and he wants in. He wants to to sort of move up and move along with things, but this is all playing into Micklemore's hands.
Yeah, Stephen Clark there just making a slight brush with the wall. It's not going to affect him too much, but it does just lose him a little bit of speed off the back straight there. So that's going to help Jason Martin get ahead of him now, which he has done. Michael Skurlock now is going to try and make that move stick, and the tyres are going to start balancing out now for Stephen Clark. He's not going to have so much effect as the guys around him. It's not going to be sort of as noticeable, so he's going to be back with the grip. He's got to make that high line work for himself. At the moment, the low line is the quicker line, and it is the one that seems to be working best for people. He's doing a good job up there, Stephen Clark, but he can only do so much up there. If there's nobody around him, it does give those people on the low line a chance to get a nose ahead. If they can just get in front of him, they can then slice up in front of him, make him back off a little bit, and then make the move absolutely done.
Stadium as well, Carl, was high line. Maybe he's looking to make those tires go a little bit longer, really sort of work things in the long run. Are we going to see Skurlock here opt to start running the high line? No, it's actually going to be Clark that looks to start working the low line with everybody else. I mean, he's a little bit out of sorts in terms of tires, but that's the strategy he opted for. Or was he just trying to throw a spanner in the works early in the Martin Racing guys up front?
Yeah, he was just trying to keep them behind him. That was his goal there. If he got an early caution or something like that, that could have really helped him out for this race. Obviously now he's going to start feeling a little bit more wear on that left-hand side too, and that can be problematic as you go through the race because, of course, those tyres are already worn. They've already had a fair few laps into them, and then things just start getting worse and worse as the race goes on. All of a sudden, they might just drop off the cliff for you. But they, as I say, they do tend to plateau a little bit here, so he should be okay for a while. Skurlock is now hunting down Micklemore and Martin. I think you're going to see a lot of drivers opt for sort of almost the mid-line, very low line in mid-corner, so mid-apex between turn 3 and 4 and 4 and 5. They're going to try and go a little bit lower. They'll probably keep a bit higher through turns 3 and 4, though, because there is a really nasty bump on the inside of turn number 4, just as you come onto the start-finish straight there.
As well, is it potentially we're going to see sort of a mid-run and then dip to the low side to really, once they sort of get the car sort of mostly turned, try and dip lower and get the power on nice and earlier, try and get by somebody? Is that how they're going to be looking for things?
Yeah, that's it. It's sort of, you want to get the car sort of almost looped into the corner, and then it's almost trying to make a square of the corner, and you just want to cut in there, get the power on nice and early, and if you can get that working for you, then you can get a good run off the corner, and that's your job done, basically. The more run you can get off the corner is the most important thing about oval racing. You want to have a good exit. You can compromise your entry a little bit. You'll see a few guys doing that, just compromising their entry a little tiny bit. But then they'll get a better exit. You can see Skurlock right here. He's having that slightly compromised entry, but getting a good exit right now. Trying his best to get on the back of Jason Martin. Just behind them, there is a gaggle of cars formed up behind Stephen Williams, and Stephen Clark starting to drop down the order now. He's got Jake Maloney and Aidan Schultz to start racing with now. Maloney's making the move. Good run from Jake Maloney tonight. Started way back in 21st.
Pretty wide, actually, for the first time. Sorry to cut you off there, Carl. It's going to be on the inside. Sorry, on the outside, it's going to be Clark, followed by Trahair in the middle, and Schultz was on the low line. Trahair gets a move done from high to low, going over the top of Schultz there, and now he gets his chance to have a crack at Stephen Clark. So it looks like Trahair is going to be one of the early movers in this little chicane. He's actually managed the traffic really, really well, and if he can tag himself onto the back of that 29 machine. But whilst they're running side by side, both Trahair and Clark will be a little bit compromised in their speed, and that's what you can see is starting to allow the 29 machine to sort of just bolt up the road a little bit.
Yeah, giving Jake Maloney the chance to start running away from those guys. Obviously, when you're racing side by side, you do lose a little bit of time sometimes because it is quite hectic up there. When you are racing that close, it does sort of make you sort of have to take a couple of extra glances sometimes, and can mean you're a little tiny bit slower than you'd want to be. But they're keeping relatively good pace at the moment. Up at front, we've still got the very tight battle between teammates. Less than a thousandth of a second between Jason Martin and Josh Micklemore at the moment. They are nose to tail at some stages in this racetrack. Maloney is looking to move on Aaron Dillon at the moment too. He's trying his best there as Stephen Clark continues to struggle a little bit with that car. Still doing a good job. He's still keeping it inside the sort of top 10 at the moment, but you can see he is starting to fall back a bit now.
He's really eyeing off, say, probably the next 25 laps. Try and come into the lane nice and early and start to make that momentum back.
As he makes contact with Aidan Schultz, sorry to jump over there, he just lost a bit of the cornering. Stephen Clark there, he just lost the car mid-corner and went up into Aidan Schultz there. That could just be a little bit of those inner tyres just starting to drop off a little bit more than he expected, losing a little bit of grip mid-corner there.
And he might be a little bit dead in the water too if he has to pit nice and early. Well, he made the strategy call to run on those tyres, and tonight, unfortunately, caution's not falling his way. So Clark falls a long way down the order. Car's unstable. That'll be starting to play in his mental game as well. He'll be aware of that. He'll be thinking it through. The next part of his job is going to be shaking that off, settling back into a rhythm, and just keeping the car alive and not going a lap down.
Yeah, you have to take a deep breath and just get back into the swing of things. Up at the front, Jason Martin's just making a move on Josh Micklemore. Josh Micklemore getting a bad exit off of turn number 4 there, and that's giving Skurlock the chance to make a move as well. Skurlock's down on the inside of Micklemore at the moment. He's trying to make it stick. Jason Martin now has gone out ahead. Skurlock is going to fight Josh Micklemore for that place, but Micklemore manages to cut down in front of him, get back on that low line. Jason Martin now has gone a bit wide, and that's going to lose him a bit of speed on the exit. All of those cars are starting to battle. Stephen Williams has come into the mix as well for the top 4 positions.
All on here, and all the marbles, all the dice are starting to come through. Something to play for as the tyre wear starts to creep in. The drivers lose a little bit of that stability on the fresh rubber. So all of a sudden, a few changes for position, and it's Martin from Skurlock. I was actually going to say, just before we jumped on the board with this battle, that Williams had made a lot of ground up as well, and he's made his way around Micklemore, with Micklemore having that bobble on the previous lap. He's managed to attach himself to this group, and I tell you what, with all that shuffling, all of a sudden 2 more cars have attached themselves to the back end of this group, and Dillon and Maloney, and Trahan's not too far back as well. All of a sudden, what looked like a 3-pack out in front has all of a sudden settled back down. We're into a 6-car race at this point in time.
Yeah, huge loss of speed there for those front runners. It started with Josh Micklemore running wide, running high up there. And the other thing that we forgot to mention a little bit earlier on really is marbles do come into play in this sort of sport. You do get those bits of rubber just falling off to the side of the car on those unused lines. So that very high line starts to get a few marbles on it. The very low line starts to get a few marbles on it. And if you go onto that, all of a sudden, all your grip is gone and you just go flying backwards. Very well held from Josh Micklemore, but he's made his night a lot harder now as he's dropped down to 6th position.
Well, just before that happened, he was actually really coming back towards things. It looks like Jason Martin really had his setup dialed in and was starting to really turn some nice solid laps. He'd made up a long margin to get back towards Micklemore, so I think Micklemore burned up a little bit of rubber nice and early trying to get by Stephen Clark, and I think that might have caused things. Something he may not have thought he pushed too hard too early on that set of tyres, and he's paid a big price. Field's starting to stretch out nicely, but still strategies could come into play here. Do you expect to be Stephen Clark to be the first car to hit pit lane?
If we stay green, Stephen Clark's going to be the first one to come in, I would say. You might see a couple of people coming in early just to try and get the fuel stop done, see if they can get a bit of an undercut on the drivers as well. You do get a situation on tracks like this where the undercut can pay dividends. Of course, you need it to remain green for that to work. Of course, the undercut can be quite strong as well, as we see Tristan Koch coming into the lane, one of the first guys out there with no real issue coming into the pit lane for a pit stop on lap 49.
Car there is Igor Brichik, obviously having a little bit of issues earlier on and finding his truck on the roof. Well, I'm sure his spotter would have been in his ears saying to try the other way up. Goes faster on its wheels, mate. Well, Clark starting to drop in terms of lap pace. Let's actually take a little bit of a look through our lap pace as it starts to fall away. We're about 1.2, 1.3 seconds away from everyone's fastest laps tonight. And indeed, the fastest lap tonight so far has actually been by Micklemore who currently resides down in 6th position due to all that bobbling. So there's a lot going on up and down the field, and Trahair's lining up for another go at him as well. So could be another spot that falls by the wayside for Mickelmore.
Yeah, Micklemore's really dropped off, and his pace has dropped a bit as well through those last few laps. He seems to be struggling a little bit for that pace. If you look at the guys in front of him, he's a good 2 to 3 tenths down on those. So definitely he's lost a lot of pace. Something's happened. He might have overheated one of the wheels a little bit, might have overheated a tyre, and he's still just trying to get the car back into fighting action, or he did take a little bit too much life out of the tyres and they've just dropped off that cliff a little bit earlier. But big hit for Skurlock. Michael Skurlock in 2nd place has made a big hit into the wall as they go down the back straight, and that is really going to affect him. He's going to come into the pits right now. In fact, he's coming into the pits. He's going to chuck on some fresh tyres, get that repair done, I'd say, and see if he can make that time back if it remains green. So he's going to roll the dice and see if it stays green now.
Yeah, and he's the first one that was really starting to look like they were having any sort of issues at this point in time. Just going to have a quick look. Fast repair limits are 0, so no fast repairs, no completely new truck awaits Skurlock in the pit lane. And well, if he rolls the dice, does that mean a few of the others start to roll the dice? 65 was the critical lap number given to us by Carl in the pre-broadcast. With 10 laps short of that, Carl, are you able to save enough fuel around here to get home from 75 to go?
Don't think so. I think we're going to have to see at least at least one more stop to get them home. I think just the tyre wear alone is going to be the big thing. A big moment there for Jake Maloney as well. He's just gone into the barrier, and you're seeing a lot of cars now just going up into the barrier, struggling for grip, and this is where the tyres are starting to drop off. They've done about 40
moment for Maloney, gets it real loose off 1 and 2, says I've had enough of these tyres, and he's going to dive down into the pit road as well.
Yeah, that's it. This is the thing. This is the critical thing now. It's the tyres. These tyres have now done 40 laps since the caution we had earlier, and it seems like the tyres are dropping off the cliff now. So these guys are going to come in, get those tyres done, see if they can make up time if the race remains green. You'll see Skurlock just sort of trying to get that time up and hoping it remains.
There's a few cars that have now come down Pit Road, and I tell you what, Clark is one of them, Kurt.
Yeah, so Stephen Clark...
Carl, not Kurt.
It's the trouble with new commentators sometimes, doesn't it? It throws you off. You got to learn the name of new drivers and commentators. Yeah, Stephen Clark coming in now as well. He's going to get all 4 tyres done. I imagine everybody's going to get all 4 done as well. It doesn't seem to be worth the risk.
Silverado. Whew. That front bumper's seen better days, Carl, but all of a sudden, I'd say that we might have Skurlock in the hot seat. He's going to start making his way through traffic, and if the traffic plays nicely to him, things will really roll his way for the next 20 laps or so.
Yeah, they're going to really help out. Actually, something's happened to Stephen Clark. He's had a big moment somewhere. He's had a relatively big moment somewhere. I'm just going to go back and see exactly what happened to him, because I think he's had a big impact into the wall. Yeah, he's had a huge moment.
Yeah, he went wide on the banking and then ended up down on the infield into the wall as well. So a big moment for him before he pit.
Yeah, good night for Stephen Clark. I think he is out of this race now. He might come back after that repair is done, but that's one big player out. This is helping Skurlock, because as these guys start to drop out, he's going to gain time on those leaders. The other good thing for him is the caution can come out. If the caution comes out now, it's really going to hurt Skurlock. Although he does get the lucky dog, and of course that's one big thing. If you're not used to oval racing, that is a thing for oval racing, is the first car a lap down gets to pass the field and gets back on the lead lap. So currently Skurlock is that car. So if the caution comes out now, he'll be able to get back on the lead lap and then be able to sort of chase his way back down the field. So that can be a big help for him if that caution does come out and fall in his favour. Although Aiden Schultz is just coming out of the pit lane now, and that's going to deal Skurlock's position of first car in line, I think. No, Skurlock did get ahead of him. But yeah, that's the thing. So the lucky dog can still help him here. It's not going to be ideal because he'll want to stop for fresh tyres, but he will be back on the lead lap. That's the important thing.
Yeah, definitely not going to see. I can't see such an extended period of time with no safety car, looking at 67 laps of green flag racing on top of what we've already had. So definitely right there. Hopefully Sherlock will be hoping for probably 2 safety car periods over the remaining laps to help his cause.
Yeah, it's going to be a no safety car or a safety car just as everybody up front pits. So if he gets a safety car just as he gets into the lead, that's going to help him out enormously. The gamble he's made now is coming out on those fresh tyres. He's going to have fresh tyres for this stage of the race. And that's another thing as well. And the caution is out.
Yeah, there it is. Dwayne
Well, we've actually...
Priest, looking like he has come to an end. I'll jump into that one and have a quick look at what happened there.
Yeah, he's got caught up into the wall and then had a big tank slapper and then a big impact into the wall. He managed to almost catch it, but it didn't go too well for him, unfortunately, and that's resulted in him having to get towed back. It looks like he's got some severe sort of damage onto that car. He might not be back out tonight. So this is basically the worst case scenario for Skurlock. It's not going to help him out too much. He should get the lucky dog, so he should be able to get back on the lead lap at least. But he wanted it to last a little bit longer, for these guys to stay out a bit longer, and for him to hopefully get back in front of them on pace and then the caution to come out. But it's great for Jason Martin.
He was very, very close to actually getting back on the lead lap. He was up to 6th or so position in terms of where the traffic was, so he was right there and thereabouts, and he would have been turning 1.2 to 2 seconds sort of a lap faster as he blitzes around the outside, receives the lucky dog, grabs his trip back on towards the lead lap, and all the drivers currently a lap down. You'd have to say they take the wave around at this sort of instant, depending upon how old their tyres are.
Well, a lot of those guys that are a lap down now have just come in for pit stops, so their tyres are only a couple of laps old. You start getting down to people like Tristan Koch, whose tyres are about 15 laps old. He's probably going to want to pit to get some fresh tyres put on. Brody Masters, he's got some relatively fresh tyres, and then everybody else, Dwayne Priest, Stephen Clark, Jake Maloney, they've all had some severe damage, so they might not be coming out again tonight.
Unfortunately, a lot of cars have collected the wall this evening, and I mean it's just sort of a comment on how difficult these things are to machine around, to really drive the wheels off around Iowa Speedway. Let's take a look through the field, sort of see who's going to be grabbing the wave around. I think it was Curtis Schroeder. I definitely saw in between the pace car and the leaders. So
just quickly there to jump in, Skurlock into pit lane.
Yeah, so Skurlock will come in now because he's managed to catch those leaders. So he's not going to lose a lap on this pit stop. So he's going to come in, chuck some fresh tyres on there, get the car fueled up, and then get back out there into this Activity Hub Bali truck race for tonight. So he's going to get nice fresh tyres on there. He will be the car that's the end of the line, so to say. So the car that's not on, that he's going to sort of start right at the back of the front runners. So he's got a lot of work to do to get back up there. But if anyone can do it, Skurlock is one of those people.
Yep, so there's going to be about, looks like 5 cars taking the wave around at this opportunity. So it's going to be Schultz, Curtis, Schroeder, Koch, and Masters are going to be your 5 cars, except in the wave around. Sorry, apologies, not Masters. It's going to be Schultz, Curtis, Schroeder, and Koch. So only 4 taking the wave around.
Yeah, and they'll get showing that just as the pace cars lights go out and they start to form up. They won't be able to catch up to the back of the field generally too easily, so they'll have to sort of make a quick run around there, and then you've got to slow down again and get sort of back into your sort of positions, and that can sometimes be quite hard. It can be a sort of almost a godsend sometimes because you do have slightly warm brakes, slightly warm tyres as you come around for that lap. On these sort of short tracks, though, you don't tend to get that as much because generally you don't catch up before everybody starts running off from it. So, yeah, I'd expect people like Skurlock, they'll have slightly warmer tyres because they've had a bit of a run. So he might be able to get a good restart, but he will struggle because there will be quite a lot of traffic to fight his way through.
So let's do a quick recap of the race so far. It was Micklemore that led us away nice and early. Jason Martin and him working together nice and early on to dominate the piece of things. Skurlock was running a little bit down the order, trying to make moves on Stephen Clark. Stephen Clark opted at the first round of pit stops under caution to only take 2 tyres and to lead us away when we got the green flag for the second time this evening. Unfortunately, running only those outside tyres, Stephen Clark has now exited the vehicle, called it a night, because he just ran out of grip at some points. It's been a difficult night for a lot of our drivers. We've seen a lot of drivers in the fence, both coming off 1 and 2 and in between 4 and 5. So, Carl, it's a difficult night so far, and it's only going to continue to be so.
Yeah, that's it. As I said, the trouble is turn 2 and turn 4 are very difficult corners. As I said, these oval tracks, they all look so similar. They don't look like they're going to be much different to race on. Different grip, different style of layout. They all make a difference. As the pace car comes in, Jason Martin's going to dump the throttle. He gets a good launch away from Stephen Williams. Aaron Dillon's got a good launch too. He's going to try and stick it down the inside of Stephen Williams. Try and get that position. He's almost got it. He's lost a little bit of grip mid-corner. He makes a bit of a spin. He's had to slow down, and that slowed down Josh Mickelmore behind him. That's going to give Stephen Williams and Jason Martin a little bit of a breather, as they're going to get a little bit of a gap here after that slight mistake from Aaron Dillon.
Important to note, drivers can pretty much make it home from here after the round of pit stops. And the caution. So we might see a little bit of conservation starting to creep in as some of these drivers try to look after their tyres just a little bit, save a little bit of fuel nice and early in the run. It's about looking after those rears. You don't just want to jam on the throttle, generate wheel spin, and all of a sudden you'll have a much more stable car through the middle of the stint. The 0-1-3 of Dylan, still very squarely off 3 and 4, not quite able to get that power down nice and steady. I just got a notification through my headset as well. Fastest lap of the night, Jason Martin with a 23.80. I tell you, who's going along with him? It's Stephen Williams, 23.83. So both of those guys up front really starting to set the pace. They want to get clear so that they're not offering that draft to any of the cars behind them.
Yeah, what was that about tyre conservation? they're just laughing at that one. The thing is right now is you sort of go, all right, I could conserve tyres to the end. I could look after the car, and it might pay back for me if we go green to the very end here. But chances are we will get that caution flag again. You know, they're going to have to make a fair few laps before the end of this race. We've got 48 lap. Sorry, my brain's working there. Maths is not a strong suit, but yeah, quite a few laps to go, and it's going to be a relatively long stint on these tyres. So ideally, they'll want to have another caution in about 20 laps time. That's when they enjoy caution, and then they'll be able to get home free on those tyres without any issue. But if that doesn't happen, you might see some of those people that are just holding back a little bit coming back to play a little bit later on. Looks like Aaron Dillon starting to get back onto pace now. It looked like he was just struggling a little bit with that tyre warm-up.
Yeah, it's something else I kind of wanted to keep in the back of the mind as well was Skurlock all the way back in the pack. He looks like he might have lost a couple places. No, I think he's doing okay. So he's sort of holding position at this point in time. Did manage to get those fresher tyres. Running that high line, I'd say out of anyone in the field, if there's somebody that was looking to conserve nice and early on, it's probably going to be Skurlock. And he's just going to let the other cars sort of do their thing, push themselves a little bit hard right now, and let the race sort of come to him. He's just got to be patient, doesn't he, Carl?
I would say that, but knowing Skurlock, he won't be. He is going to be trying to sieve his way through the field as he does get past Matty Raymond there, going down the inside of the 83. The 83 is going to get a better run off the corner there, Matty Raymond, and it's just going to have a little bit better run off the corner, but Skurlock is really applying the pressure to those guys. Skurlock would have had to drop behind these guys, so he'd have had to drop back to just behind Aiden Schultz when the restart happened, just because when you're the lucky dog, you have to drop to the end of the line, basically. So he's already passed a fair few people. He is really putting some pressure on those guys now, and he's going to want to try and get for a good finish tonight. If he can get back up into the top 5, I think he'll be relatively happy.
It's important to note as well that we did see during the early part of the race a 41-lap straight period with no yellow flags. It's probably around about the last 2 or 3 laps of that stint. We did see the drivers start to struggle with tyres, so 51 laps to go here. We're going to have an interesting one if it is green towards the end. 10 to 15 laps out from the end, we'll start to see that tyre wear really take effect on those cars, as we did see earlier on.
Yeah, it's going to be even earlier than that. It's going to be about lap say 110. The drivers are really is about the same sort of stint length. So I think we're in for an interesting night, and I think there's a lot more to write in the pages of of the Activity Hub Bali, Iowa Speedway, 130 laps. Well, who's your favourite driver so far this evening? Let us know. I know we've seen a few comments about Traher. Traher's currently running in 6th position and not doing too badly for himself. He's actually up 4 positions from where he started so far. Another driver doing really, really well is Jason Williams.
Yeah, Williams having a good run there from 22nd on the grid up to 4th position. He's having a fantastic run later on in this race, managing to get past Aaron Dillon as well. That restart paid off for him in that very nice gold liveried Havoline car. Another driver doing good in the midfield is Matty Raymond. He started 24th, he's up into 14th at the moment. Michael Skurlock has got past him, he's now battling with the number 9, Tony Gallardi. So those guys are starting to have a little bit of a battle. Skurlock is trying to push his way down though after Kai Donnelly now. So he's really carving his way through the field. Just a bit further up actually, there's a good battle going on between Jason Williams and Aaron Dillon now. Aaron Dillon is coming back to the field. His pace is starting to heat up a little bit.
Yeah, looks to go underneath Jason Williams. Williams was looking for the over-under, the switch back, the old stamp on the throttle and hope it works, and in that case it didn't work. Manages to settle back in, so it's going to be Dillon up to the 4th place position at this point in time in the 013 machine. Out in front though, Martin and Williams still going at it, hammer and tong as well. Those guys are not going to be satisfied until this race is done and one of them beats out the other. I can tell you that for sure. And Micklemore still trying to go with them as well. He wants to get back up there and really support his teammate if he can.
Yeah, Micklemore wants to finish the season strong as well and get a couple of wins under his belt to get the championship over and done with and get it all finished, of course, as well. Big thing for Micklemore, he wants to win it as well as win the race as well as the championship, so he's going to be looking for that. But at the moment, Jason Martin has got some seriously good pace. Stephen Williams as well. They're pretty much setting like-for-like lap times at the moment. That last time round, though, Aaron Dillon was the car to watch out for. He just set a blinder of a lap with a 24.61, just a couple of thousandths ahead of the guys around him. So pretty good lap there from Alan Dillon. It looks like he just wasn't having the short run pace, but the long run pace is there for him. So look for him to start closing back up on Josh Micklemore shortly on.
Let's see, keep an eye on that over sort of the next 10-15 laps or so. Williams now was under a little bit of threat from Traher just a few laps ago. Looks like Traher settled and tried to get things back underneath control. Mark Smith cruising on up in the background, as well as Christopher Finlay, now the car on screen, and the pink 77 of Jake Manhire. Brendan Bartlett's going to round out your top 10 for now. And I tell you what, with 87 laps in the book, boy, that's flown by, but it's been exciting every minute of the way.
Yeah, these races, they go quick. You think, oh, it's going to be a long one tonight with those amount of laps, but they really do come quite quickly in these races. Just want to go back to you a little bit. When you last looked at Michael Skurlock, what position was he in?
15th, 16th at best.
So he's now coming up to P10. He has worked his way up to 11. He's now chasing down Braden Bartlett and trying to make that P10 position his. And he's making some seriously good pace in the midfield at the moment. So he is definitely scything his way through the field and working his way up into that top 10 position.
What, he's just run a 24.9, so really trying to make some pace. That basically puts him on par with the leaders, only a tenth or so off the pace to those guys as it stands. Tyre conservation, well, strategy torn up, thrown out the window. Let's go racing, he says. Let's grab positions. But I tell you what, Martin all of a sudden decided he has got the best truck out here on the circuit tonight. 24.877 last time around. Stephen Williams 24.899, nearly identical lap times, but Martin is just slowly, ever so slowly grinding that lead, further and further away.
Yeah, that's the thing about Jason Martin, is he is a bit like a Terminator. He just keeps going. He's one of those drivers that's very frustrating to race against because he just manages to find time when there is none. Your tyres could be on 0%, way over their heat limit, and he'll still be going faster. And you're thinking, how can he do this? How can he keep getting the time in that car? Because those tyres must be dead. But he just manages it. And that's the thing about Jason Martin. He is very good on long runs, very good on short runs as well. That's where he's the most dangerous driver in the field sometimes, because he is so very quick. When he gets out in front, he tends not to fall back.
Yeah, and Micklemore working with him as a teammate. Well, there's you always got to try and beat your teammate, and Micklemore tonight has not been able to hold anything against the 21 machine of Jason Martin. So the top three at this point in time are Chevrolets. You've got a couple of Toyotas running in 4th and 5th with Dylan and Traher. A couple more Chevrolets, Smith and Williams, followed by 2 more Toyotas. And that's Jake Manhire, Christopher Finlay, and another Chevrolet to round out your top 10. I'm actually a little bit surprised. There's only one Ford badge in the entire field, and that's by Jake Maloney, who's withdrawn himself so far from proceedings tonight. So I thought there'd be a lot more support for the Fords.
Well, the Ford F-150 was a relatively new car to be added, so a lot of people just didn't buy it just because it was only introduced earlier this year, I think. As they go past Igor Brerick there, still trucking along there a little bit further back, but he got in the way a little bit of those cars that were lapping him, and this has given Skurlock a chance to try and get 3 wide across the start-finish line as he is busy fighting Christopher Finlay, and Christopher Finlay's just gone way outside, and that's going to lose him a few positions. Kai Donnelly has managed to keep that car in a relatively good spot, but the man that made it work perfectly was Michael Skurlock, who's made it up into P10 now. He's now chasing down Brendan Bartlett.
It's only going to be a couple laps before he is showing his nose on the inside. Birchik is going to take another trip down through the lane, try and get his way out of things. I'll tell you what, the rear end of the 56 of Brendan Bartlett not looking very straight at this point in time. Neither does the front, so that'll be adding a little bit of extra tyre temperature, tyre degradation to those tyres. And thank you very much, Stuart, for giving us a close-up view of the crumpled-in rear end of the Bartlett truck.
Yeah, he's taken.
Good shot, isn't it? I tell you what, the nose camera on these things around here is absolutely fantastic.
It really gives you a sense of the speed of these cars and the turn-in as well. You sometimes don't believe these things are going to turn in, and they just do. But yeah, Brendan Bartlett took a bit of a spill earlier on in one of those early cautions. He got a bit of damage caused him, quite a bit of damage on the front and back of that car, but he's doing a good job of keeping it there. Another guy that's doing a good job at the moment is Kai Donnelly as well. He is currently flying past. He managed to get bounced back past Skurlock, so they're having a really good battle there for the 9th, 10th and 11th spot, and they're catching up to Jake Manhire in the Matsumura Fishworks Company car, so he's being caught up to as well.
I'll tell you what, there was actually a few trucks down on pit road. Schroeder was down there, and Gary Wellman as well, both opting to cut the last stint in half and say that they're going to come down pit lane, look for a little bit of fresh rubber, hope to make their way back towards the lead. Another caution here will absolutely ruin their night. Nearly confirmed to trap them 1 lap or more down. I think it's 2 laps down is the pit lane transit time here this evening. About 1.5, 2, somewhere in that sort of realm of things. Micklemore now is going to come under a little bit more pressure from Dylan. He has been absolutely after him since those tyres started to come up to pressure. Is Aaron Dillon. He really wants to work on it.
Sorry, Skurlock is coming into the pit lane. So Skurlock is pitting now. So it looks like Skurlock's made his decision to come into the pit lane now and get that out of the way. So he's going to hope for no more cautions tonight. He's going to hope this one runs green, because he could make up some good positions here with the undercut. Especially with the fact that these guys are probably going to have to pit relatively late, so the overcut won't work too well for them. So keep an eye on Skurlock for that one, but we might see a few people coming in around him now just to try and cover him off.
Well, there was a few guys that dived down the lane. I believe Curtis was not one of those. Sorry, it was Schroeder and Wellman. And Schroeder, I think, is just about to go past Skurlock on track. Skurlock's actually out of the lane now, so I think Skurlock might hold it over Schroeder as he exits just in front of our leaders here. So Schroeder's just in behind Jason Martin. Martin's going to have to relinquish the space to him once those tyres start to come up to temperature and pressure from Schroeder. If he can start making some time, but keep your eyes on Skurlock. How far does he manage to get away from Martin, and how quickly is going to be the turn of events? I think he's one lap down is Skurlock, and Brendan Bartlett now drives his Chevrolet truck down through pit road. Tell you what, for half a moment there, I thought Martin might be diving down the lane, but he's just running that real low line.
To give you an idea of the price of tyres right now, Gary Wellman is the fastest car on the track down there in 21st, setting a 23.9. That is the last lap for Jason Martin, for instance, was 25.1. So there is a big difference between those tyres. You can really see the new tyres paying dividends. So people are going to have to really start thinking about making that pit stop, coming in for those fresh tyres, because it is going to be they're going to lose a lot of time on this track. So that's something else you have to think about. One of the hard things, of course, when you are sim racing is you're not just the driver, you also have to be the crew chief and the strategist as well, as you're driving around at almost 200 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, and Wellman just coming up on the rear end of Troy Davis in there, so he'll grab a lap back on him and continues to make his way forward. Brody Masters is now only 1.6 seconds up the road and closing quickly as Wellman. And I tell you what, somebody else has just dived down the lane. No, I'm still seeing Bartlett in the lane. So did Bartlett come out and then come immediately back in? He must have gotten a speeding and pit lane penalty.
Yeah, he may have gotten a penalty there. He has got quite a lot of damage as well, so I think he might have got a bit of a penalty there. He might just have a stop-go or a drive-through to serve here because, yeah, it's not usual to stop and come out, and he has indeed had a drive-through, so he's come back out into the race. So that's really going to affect him now. He's going to lose another lap, so that's not going to help him out.
Yep, he's just going to hold it down on the apron. Let all the cars come flying by. Is he coming out or is he coming back in? I think he might have missed his box, actually.
He may have done. This penalty may be getting worse and worse for him tonight. I know that feeling so well. Jumping back to the battle for P3 at the moment, there is nothing between the guys from P3 to pretty much P5. So Aaron Dillon and Luke Trahir are both really applying pressure. You've also got Mark Smith starting to catch up as well. So Josh Micklemore is really struggling out there tonight. He has got a little bit more damage from last time I saw him as well. So it looks like he's had another nibble into the wall somewhere along the line.
Yep, it's starting to get towards that state. We've been green flag.
Big moment there for Aaron Dillon into the wall, and that almost ruined the night of a few cars behind him. Luke Trahir, Mark Smith, the 22 as well. That was going to be a big moment there, but he managed to catch the car just in time. Everybody behind him managed to slam on the stop button as quick as they could and made that one work. But that's going to cost him a lot of time.
I tell you what, Dillon was a little bit out of control. The problem for Dillon here is if he wants to get into the lane, he was being trapped on the high side for a couple of laps there. He got squirrely off 1 and 2 once again. Trahir went very deep into 1 and 2 as well, caught it, and it was actually, I think, the better driver out of everyone there, I think, was Tristan Koch, who's actually a lap down, and he's actually not racing these guys for position. And I tell you what, Dillon does not look comfortable on that thing right now. He is swirling all over the track, really struggling to get the foot on the accelerator. Another time by, doesn't opt to go in, and all of a sudden Micklemore's been given a lot of breathing room. He'll cool those tyres up a little bit and look to defend again when they finally get some stability back under themselves. That second lane looks to be the optimal running line right now because it mixes the benefits of running a lower line with the ability to look after the tyres that comes from running that higher line.
And the big issue out there, I had a couple of guys quickly saying it as well, is the fact that they are lapping cars, but people are going 3 wide. And that's because those lapped cars are now getting back on them. People like Tristan Koch, his tyres are 20 laps fresher than the guys around him, Aaron Dillon and Luke Trahir. Those guys' tyres are a lot worse condition than Tristan Koch's at the moment. So he's able to keep pace with them and just keep going. Mark Smith is really starting to catch up as well. So they've lost a lot of time from that sort of battling it out and sort of almost trying not to let the lapped car get past and trying to pass Josh Micklemore, who they are catching once again. Micklemore is really hemorrhaging time out there. He's a good couple of tenths down every single lap right now.
More struggling for pace, struggling for stability, struggling for grip, and soon might be struggling to hang on to his position. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled for that. And I tell you what, if Dylan and Traher keep going at this, it might just buy him another few laps. Well, Traher gets it done in one. It took him less than a lap to set that move up, get it done. Now he's past Dylan. It'll be his shot at the man on the move this evening in Josh Micklemore. I tell you what, Traher might have bought his ticket onto the podium tonight.
Yeah, that was a very important move for Traher there, making a good pass down on Dylan there. Now he's got to look at Micklemore. He's got to think about conserving the tyres a little bit as well as we hit 117, 118 this time round. There's still a bit of there's still a fair few laps to go tonight, so they've still got a long way to go on these tyres. They're now getting to 52 laps on these tyres, so that's the longest we've had at any point tonight. So it's basically no man's land. Nobody knows what's going to happen now with the tyres. Nobody's been this long on the tyres yet, so that's where things start to change up a little bit, because people are going to have to really adjust their driving style. People are going to have to work out what's going to work, what's not going to work, and then you've got all those cars that have pitted all the way around you that are going to be going so much faster. You've got to really be careful out there right now.
Yep, Troy Davison just gone a lap down by the look of things. Last stopped on lap 65. I don't even see, actually, I was looking for Skurlock in that picture. Skurlock right now running 24.8. He is 0.6 a lap faster than the leaders. His pace and his relative pace to the leaders has fallen off a long way, and I think he's on the wrong strategy tonight. I think it would have been in his interest and everyone's interest to just look to go through that green flag run, but a caution here throws all of that back up into the air and sets up an exciting finish. So right now it's on the drivers to keep it green if Skurlock's to have a shot.
Yeah, this is the thing I was talking about a bit earlier on as well. The tyres do plateau a little bit. At the moment, Skurlock's setting times about 2 to 3 tenths faster than the leaders. Earlier on, he was setting times much faster than everybody else. But right now, those tyres have plateaued. They're not going to really lose much more time. You're going to see them going down to probably the mid to low 25s now. And that's going to be about the slowest times you're going to see. They sort of go through a graining period and then they start to get their grip back again. And then all of a sudden they feel not great, but they're okay, and you can start racing on them once more. Josh Micklemore is going to be struggling a little bit as Luke Traher does start to catch him. So it looks like Traher could have a good position for a top 3 finish here tonight. He's been having a cracking season as well. I was looking through some of the results earlier, and he's had some good finishes this year, up in the top 5 and top 10.
Yep, the virtual motorsports mentor Toyota doing a phenomenal job so far this evening. Look at that gap now to Micklemore. He is coming. The lap times last time by was a 25.38 for Traher and an identical 25.38 for Micklemore. So Micklemore has taken a look in that rearview mirror and he sees him coming. He knows that if he's got anything left on those tyres, he's got to start to burn it up. He needs a buffer. There's 17 to go here, Carl. The night has started to draw itself to a conclusion, and there is multiple questions to be asked right the way through. I just heard Jason Martin on the radio as well saying thank you to the lap traffic. So lap traffic doing an awesome job to stay out of the way, which means the racing is going to be that much more intense.
Well, that's it. One of the things, of course, that is different about Oval to what you're used to in GT. Oh, and a big moment there for Christopher Finlay. He's gone round. It looks like Igor Burke just caught him as they were going around him through turn number 1, and that's caused him to have a big sideways moment. That was almost a caution there, but he's managed to keep it. Christopher Finlay did a great job of keeping that car on the straight path. His tyre is going to be a bit hot for a couple of laps, but he will be able to get back to it. But what I was actually going to say there is the cars, they don't have to move out the way, of course. There are no blue flags in oval racing. Those guys generally, they can race pretty hard for the keeping on the lead lap. Generally, when you go a lap down, then you don't tend to worry so much. You let more people past, you don't tend to race as hard. But for that lead lap, it can become a pretty big fight for that sort of keeping that position. So as soon as we start catching people like Jason Williams, who he's next up in line, he might put up a bit more of a fight for Jason Martin because he doesn't want to fall a lap down just in case that caution does come out.
I tell you what, look at whose hands this is played right back into. Traher now all over the rear end of the 31 of Josh Micklemore in front of him. So we're going to see Traher and Micklemore go head-to-head. The gap is down to 0.2 of a second. It was only 0.6 of a second, say 5 laps ago. So he's coming. Micklemore will have his eyes glued to that shiny bit of silver mirror in the center of his car. That's right, it's the rear view mirror, and Luke Traher is absolutely filling it.
Yeah, he is. As they go past Igor Brick again, looks like he's having some latency issues as well, unfortunately. They've all managed to get around there without that. And so he's having some trouble out there. So they've managed to get past him, but as they come past again, they get past the 104, I think it is, Christopher Finley. He got caught up in the wall a little bit there. So again, a little bit of a moment as they came across the line. This is the really tricky part of oval racing, is getting past the lapped cars and cars that are running on different strategies than you, and that's where it can become really, really difficult. But while these two are fighting, while Micklemore and Traher are racing, they are actually catching up to Stephen Williams, and that's something that we sort of haven't really been looking at too much. But Stephen Williams has had to slam on the brakes a couple of times due to some fighting a little bit further down the grid, and that's cost him a bit of time.
We missed something? The checkers is out. Yeah, that's 130. We are actually done. I had my eyes on 140, so I was thinking we weren't quite done yet. It's going to be Martin that stamps his name in the book as the winner at Iowa here this evening. Williams was drifting back. Micklemore holds off the fast-charging Luke Traher, and he grabs the final spot on the podium.
Yeah, that would say why Stephen Williams was falling back so much. Yeah, absolutely brilliant win there from Jason Martin. Too busy focusing on the battles there. But absolutely great top three there. Josh Micklemore just holding on by the skin of his teeth. Luke Traher doing a great job there to put the pressure on there too. Jake Mayer as well. Jake Mayer getting up into 11th place on his debut race as well. So good result for him. It can be tricky out there, but P11 is nothing to be ashamed at. Might not be the proper P10, but P11 just about counts.
Well, look at the issues that a lot of drivers had out here tonight for Menhir to find his way up into P11. And we never talked about him. That's exactly what you want, isn't it? You'd never want to be up on the screen because you managed to work the truck into the wall. You want nothing like that? Nope. I tell you what, we never had to talk about Menhir whatsoever. He was making his way quietly up the grid, stayed on the lead lap. What a great debut race.
Yeah, really good result for him. And yeah, that's exactly what you want. He didn't really get in anybody's way. He raced hard. He was racing there quite a bit up in the top 10 for a while as well. So really good result for him there. But yeah, Jason Martin you can see, but if you look at Jason Martin's car as well, there is literally nothing on it. It just looks pristine and almost like it was the same as it was for the start of the race, but now he goes up into the wall, of course, just so I can, just to ruin that. But yeah, his car was absolutely clean there by the end of the race. Stephen Williams as well, pretty much a clean car by the end of the race, and it really paid off for them. Another good result for Stephen Williams, but Jason Martin taking the overall.
I mean, it was interesting. There was not a dry moment from lights out to flag in the air. And I tell you what, Carl, what a pleasure on a Monday night to sit down and be treated to such an event.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it out here on the ovals. It's a very different kind of racing, but hopefully this will tempt you into giving it a bit more of a go as well. And the Truck Series is here for ANZCAR, basically for that. It is our developmental series as well. So if you do feel like, well, having a go, this is what we actually have the trucks here for. Obviously, not too many races for the rest of the year to go, as we are pretty much done now. But once we get back next season, feel free to come and have a go. It's a really good series to develop in. You've got a lot of experienced drivers, a lot of people that are new to ovals as well. So it's a good mix of learning and also learning off those more experienced guys.
I think anything, if I'm going to join into a new series, join a new league, something like that, I want to do it right now. When there's a couple weeks left, you kind of can't really ruin anyone's championship as it stands, and because most of the places will be locked in, it's only like sort of the final little bits and pieces that people are shuffling over. Time to get your feet wet, decide whether you like it, decide whether you enjoy racing around it, and then you're all guns blazing for the next season. So people out there want to get involved with ANZCAR. What's the best way to get involved here, Kyle?
Well, the best way is to jump onto Facebook. I'm pretty sure all of us have that nowadays, and just look up ANZCAR on there, ANZCAR. You'll be able to jump onto the page there. You'll be able to get into the league, have a chat to the guys on there as well, the admins there, or just have a chat in general. They'll be able to help you out. Of course, we've got one last race remaining, and that's at Chicagoland. So a slightly different speedway again, Chicagoland, a bit more of a cookie cutter oval. And what we mean by that is more of a 1.5 mile oval that a few tracks are like. They're very similar in that respect. But it's more of a fast track. You're going to get more of that drafting action, more of that more NASCAR action that you think of, rather than sort of some of the small short tracks. So a really good race to have a go in. But we do run some other events throughout the year as well, and it's a good way of getting into the Oval Series. As I say, have a go at it, because it is a lot of fun, but it is a lot of hard work as well.
Chicagoland is one of my earliest events into the Cup Series cars as well. So I can tell you very much it's a multi-grooved track. There's the option to run side by side and make moves work. It's actually, you mentioned it's cookie cutter, but it's kind of the right cookie cutter. There's a lot of action that can go on there, a lot of side-by-side racing, the ability to move forward, the ability to move backwards, the ability to plan out your night and have a strategy really pay off. I just had the sound of a few people joining the channel. I think it's time for a couple of interviews. And Jason Martin, another win in the books for you tonight.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Thanks for that. That was a pretty fun race, despite the setup being so tight.
Yeah, the car was a bit skittish out there tonight, especially the rear as you're going through turns 4 and turns 2. Were you struggling much through those areas?
Yeah, it's the sort of setup that I hate. It's tight on entry, and then it can get loose on exit, so I don't enjoy them setups. So yeah, it's a bit sketchy, but probably after about maybe 15, 20 laps, it got pretty tight on exit.
Going your way, then, is that how you'd prefer the car to be handling on exit, just to remain tight right the way through?
I'd prefer it loose on entry and on exit, but so yeah, I don't like it when it's tight on one end and then loose on the other. I can't get my head around that.
Well, I tell you what, cross it over to Micklemore, and I tell you what, Josh, setup didn't seem to be going your way tonight. The longer the race went on, the longer the runs were. You started falling a little bit down the order. Did you burn those tyres up racing Stephen Clark early on there?
Yeah, I burnt the right front off on that first run. And then second run, I was sort of pacing myself and staying with them, but ended up getting in behind a lap car there and got a bit of damage, and that sort of slowed us down a bit. But, yeah, we managed to get the Mitch Motorsports number 31 Chevy into third, so we're pretty happy about that.
Things considered, I'd say pretty successful team night for you guys there.
Yeah, and how about Josh? I wrapped up that championship with a race to spare, so yeah, he's got to be pretty stoked about that one.
Yeah, no, pretty stoked for that one. Jace getting the win and wrapping up the championship around to go this week. So, yeah, pretty happy with how the trucks run this season. So, it's good.
Been a good season so far again for Mitch Motorsport. We when you guys sort of announced that you guys were starting to team up, we did worry for the old ANZCAR series that it was going to be a very hard series to win in. But you guys have been having a really good run now. It seems everything's working together for you guys. Obviously, last week out, Danny G, the third driver in the team, getting the win in the Cup Series. This week out for yourself, Josh, getting the championship, and Jason getting the win. Not a bad week for the team, all in all.
Yeah, after a bit of a up and down week last week, yeah, it's good to start off new week on a high. So, yeah, pretty happy about the truck series.
And you're looking for a good one next time out at Chicagoland, trying to finish the season off in style?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll be out there and see what it can do. So, should be fun.
Well, look, a
Awesome.
fantastic run overall this evening, and certainly an enjoyable race for our second broadcast of the Truck Series. We look forward to bringing you more of this throughout the year. Thank you to Jason Martin, our race winner tonight, and to Josh Micklemore. Congratulations on taking out this title, as well as we let you gentlemen go. And as usual, we do the favours of the night. So, Scotty, what was your moment for the race?
Tough one. It wasn't really any one moment that actually stood out this evening. I think the racing itself was quite good. I think Trahair trying his absolute hardest to get on the rear end of Micklemore right towards the end of the race was probably the highlight for me.
For myself, I would probably say that that last restart where we had some epic battling, where Jason finally managed to launch himself out and get a good lead there. Just some great battling throughout the field there, and we saw some great overtakes. So, yeah, that would probably be my highlight of the night. Driver-wise, probably got to say another good drive for Luke Trahair, really getting it up there. But Mark Smith as well, back there in 5th place, brilliant drive for him. A nice top 5 finish for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And our biggest mover for the night was actually Matty Raymond, up 16 spots from his starting position. So a shout out to him as well for a strong drive, storming through the field as well. So a couple of really strong performances there. It bodes really well for this series for next season. Obviously, as you said, 1 round to go next week. But with the strength of competition here, it really makes me excited about what we've got to see in the series next year when we get back into Season 1 2021. So, as you mentioned, if you're interested in getting involved here, still a few good places available, great place to learn. These ANZCAR series are run really well, and they're a great environment to learn, and there's certainly always plenty of help available if you need it. It's been such an action-packed night tonight. We haven't had a chance as well to mention our channel sponsors. Speaking of learning to drive, Virtual Motorsport Mentor, a big thanks to them, Chris Purnell and his team on board with us as a channel sponsor. And if you are looking for help or assistance in the way that you get these things around the track, definitely one of the people to speak to, along with if you're looking for a computer to help you run the game and make sure that you've got the reliability and the hardware behind you to get the job done, then Ryan and the crew at Aftershock PC in St Kilda Road in Melbourne are definitely the place we recommend to go. We run a number of their PCs for our streaming and broadcasting, and never ever have they faltered in doing what they need to do for us. So have a chat with them. Great service and great prices as always. That about wraps it up for us for the minute. We've got tomorrow night we're back with our series that we've been broadcasting for the first season. We've got their first race, not necessarily of their season, it's a wildcard race that they're running, and that is the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series Season 2 Intercontinental GT Challenge that they're running. And that starts out tomorrow night with a wildcard race in the Legacy Riley Daytona Prototypes. Live here on FGM eCast from 7:40. Scotty will be joining me for that one as well as I take a more active role. I'm not going to lie, guys, I really actually enjoyed just sitting back, running the cameras, being able to watch the race, and not having to do the 9 or 10 different things that I try to do at once. It made it a little bit more enjoyable for me. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. As always, a pleasure. So we've got that one starting tomorrow night. Wednesday night, I believe we're back again with ANZCAR with midweek Speedway week, and we'll get that one up and running too. So plenty to come still here on FGM eCast, your E-Place for Pace, throughout the week, and looking forward to bringing that to you. And I think that's about it, gents. So as always, Carl, thank you very much for jumping into the box. We really appreciate your guidance and opinion through the series.
You're more than welcome, and I'll see everybody on Thursday for the Cup race of the ANZCAR drivers as well, and we'll be chatting away in the box for that one too.
And Scotty, as always, mate, thank you for your comments throughout the night. Certainly an enjoyable one.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I'm never one to shy away from something new, and I tell you what, I'm hooked. I've been running with the ANZCAR guys in the 87s earlier this season. Got myself a little bit unlucky multiple times to not be further up the field, but it's always a pleasure. I know the guys that are actually an absolute hoot to get on with, and you can ask questions of the better drivers, and you'll get active responses. You know, you'll be taught a lot. So if there's anyone out there that's even contemplating in the slightest that they want to get involved, I'd strongly recommend they do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, remiss of me to mention as well, we are on Sunday night with the V8 Supercar Oval Track Series as well. Of course, we did run that one last night. We're just working today on a highlights package for that one too. So keep an eye out on our socials over the next couple of days. That one will be out with a 3 and I believe 10-minute highlight package of the racing from last night. It was a good oval track race in the V8 Supercar Series there too, so keep an eye out on that, and also for a summary version of this race coming your way as well. And that is about it. It is Monday night, about 9:24 local time in Melbourne, and thank you to everyone jumped in the chat and watched us this evening. We always appreciate your company. In fact, it is humbling to have so many people tune in to our broadcasts, and we'll see you on here tomorrow night, I should say, from 7:40 or so. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you again.